On September 10th, a shooting occurred on campus where an individual is accused of fatally shooting. September Holt testified that the suspect, identified by prosecutors as Robinson, left and returned to the campus about 90 minutes before the attack. An officer reported briefly interacting with Robinson near the scene during a manhunt early in the morning of September 11th. The court hearing included new footage showing a man matching Robinson's description repeatedly on campus around the time of the incident. Hull emphasized that an officer was present and engaged with Robinson shortly after the shooting. This adds context to the investigation as it moves forward. Robinson is currently facing legal proceedings related to this alleged crime. The next steps in the case will depend on further developments from law enforcement and court rulings. Suspect ate Chick-fil-A and interacted with Charlie Kirk's staff before shooting, court hears. President Trump brought his long-standing criticisms of European countries, once again expressing frustration over their defense spending and refusal to support the U.S. and Israeli war in Iran. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Turkish president, through translator said, Mr. One and embraced what he called his, quote, special relationship. President Donald Trump. We're going to have a good time. Nick Skiffrin. The Hague. That President Trump praised NATO allies for pledging to spend 5% of their GDP on defense by 2035. When I asked a senior NATO official here in Ankara today whether the U.S. could reduce its security presence too quickly and leave Europe vulnerable, the official replied that to keep context bounded. One timeline point, one explainer, one useful detail, and one uncertainty at most. The remaining polling caveat is how the surveyed population and margin of error shaped the finding. Federal judge has temporarily blocked parts of the Department of Education's new loan limits, including restrictions on professional degree programs. This decision comes after a ruling that halted some proposed changes to student loans affecting graduate fields like law and medicine. In the graduate space, the legislation lists about 11 examples of what they would consider high-cost professional degrees requiring more borrowing, up to $50,000 annually, or a lifetime total of $200,000 for programs such as law school. The judge's order is temporary and will remain in effect during ongoing legal proceedings. The Department of Education had proposed new loan limits that could have significantly impacted students pursuing careers in fields like law, medicine, veterinary science, and other professional degrees. These changes were part of a broader effort to manage student debt levels but faced immediate judicial review. Legal experts note that the ruling preserves current borrowing conditions for graduate programs while allowing further litigation to determine whether the new limits will ultimately be implemented. The outcome could have far-reaching implications for students' financial planning as they navigate higher education costs and potential changes in loan eligibility. Utah state regulators have cited unnecessary restraint, aggressive physical contact, and instances of neglect among non-compliance issues at Provo Canyon School's Springville campus dating back to 2025. The school's residential treatment license has been revoked, with all services set to cease by August 6, as stated in the official letter from the state authorities. The allegations detail repeated incidents where students were subjected to questionable physical interventions and the lack of proper oversight deemed unacceptable under licensing standards. Officials say this action is part of an ongoing review into safety protocols at the facility following multiple complaints over several years. The school must now close its residential programs immediately, with no further services allowed on campus after the deadline set forth in today's notice. No immediate plans for reopening or alternative care arrangements have been announced by Provo Canyon School officials responding to these findings from state regulators. The cancellation of the license marks a significant setback for the institution and raises questions about broader compliance issues within Utah's private education sector that may be under investigation as part of this regulatory action. Le Pen may have to wear when she campaigns to succeed French President Emmanuel Macron in elections next year are a common measure in France, in part to ease prison overcrowding. 4 things to know about Marine Le Pen's embezzlement sentence and the political impact still. Le Pen said she'll run for the French presidency next year despite that verdict, something that is possible under French law. What to know about the electronic ankle monitor a French court says Marine Le Pen must wear. That court, the Court of Cassation, previously said it would be able to rule before the presidential election, and Le Pen could eventually be forced to wear the monitor during the background. A Paris appeals court on Tuesday declared the far-right leader guilty of embezzlement and ordered her subjected to electronic monitoring as part of her punishment. On Monday, they were well beaten by Belgium 4-1 and never reached the heights of previous games. Now, the morning after the nightmare in Seattle, there is gratitude for all the excitement, but also the sense of a missed opportunity. The American squad was stacked with players performing in Europe's top leagues, and in coach Mauricio Pochettino they had one of the world's foremost coaches. Many pointed to the actions of U.S. President Donald Trump, who asked FIFA to review a red card ban imposed on the team's main goal scorer. Cup in the modern era, when they reached the last 8 in 2002. Afterwards, Pochettino said his team were never in the game and a learning process would begin to explore why. Adams said it had been a bad day and they had come up short. The next step is how the result changes the standings and what the teams or competitors do next. As climate change damages streets and highways, the road ahead may be expensive, and roads are suffering as a result. Heat waves are becoming more common and intense as a result of climate change, and roads are suffering as a result. The remaining question is what confirmed response, timeline, or impact changes the story next. The Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei continued Tuesday with his coffin traveling to Najaf, Iraq. This procession marks the continuation of Iran's state funeral for a high-ranking official and underscores the country's ongoing political climate where such events are routine yet deeply symbolic. Iranian officials have not issued any public statements regarding potential disruptions or security measures along the road from Tehran to Najaf. Local authorities in Iraq remain on standby, maintaining standard protocols for handling state funerals within their jurisdiction. The funeral procession is expected to pass through several key locations across Iran before reaching its destination in Najaf by late Tuesday evening. No further details have been released at this time regarding any official responses or reactions from regional governments. The situation remains under observation as the coffin continues its journey toward Najaf, Iraq. The next public safety update is whether officials confirm the cause, the victims, or the response timeline.